Welcome on in, team. Now, I was in the car with everything set up, ready to go, on a fantastic painting journey out there in the wilderness. But what transpired was that the chances of rain 100%. So that plan's getting cut. So today, we're in the living room. That's the plan. And I have been hurriedly, I've set up everything here instead. So today's wilderness is Seb's living room. And we're doing faces, not this face. This was one we were dabbling on yesterday. So we're probably gonna come back to it. But after we do the main projects today, that'll be the plan. Because we've got a face that we want to do today. A fresh face that we want to do today. That's the plan. All right. Let me just get it out of here. Do 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 la da 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 daddy daddy. And wherever you're joining from in the world, good to have you here. There we go. Perfect. And slot the iPad in there. You know, it's nice having an iPad, but it's a real shame, guys. I actually broke the screen. And I'm not sure how I did it. I think I put too much pressure on it. Well, obviously. But I think it's actually, it looks like a heel or an elbow. So it was just due to negligence. I had a cover around it, protecting the edges, but not the actual surface of it. So more fool me, team. More fool me. Okay. So since we're working inside, we were already working with egg tempera and pigment, regardless. So why is that important? Well, a couple of reasons. It's got no fumes, no toxicity, no nothing. And the reason why that's so key is because if we're going to be inside today, and let me just bring you up a little bit closer. If we're going to be inside today, guess who else is also inside? My baby daughter. So, you can talk about paint being safe for you and you can handle the fumes and all that sort of carry on. But I will not put my daughter through that. So, this is a completely fume-free environment. And in fact, the way the paint dries is via a process called coagulation. It emulsifies. That's the wrong term. Egg tempera doesn't evaporate to dry. The water evaporates, but actually it's the proteins that lock into place and form a film. And inside that film, if you've ever had egg stuck on a plate before, that's where the pigment is, and that's where that stays. So there's a bit of a process to it, but it's a very different kind of painting. And I personally love it because it's my personal opinion, and this is the biggest conspiracy theory that you'll hear about, but it's my personal opinion that artists are actually ruining their frontal lobes left, right, and center using damaging products and damaging paint. And I believe that some trajectories for artists, you say, oh, their painting changed, Did it change, or over the process of making it, did they just melt their frontal lobe? It's a very tough one to know, and I struggle a lot of the time when I'm using acrylics and oils in spaces that aren't extremely ventilated, like the outdoors. I need to be outside. Speaking of outdoors, it's cold out there. I had myself a little beanie and everything arranged. I was so ready for the world, guys. It was go time. But anyway, we're here in the studio here now, and I like it. We're inside, so you can hear all the words I'm saying, which is kind of nice. And I can still see justification for the decision we've made to be inside, because it is still hammering down with rain out there. So, a pretty interesting concept. It is. Cheers, David. I'm trying to keep the paint off, but I failed. That's oil, so that's a part of this now. And get the paint on the pants and paint off the top layer, if I can help it. But it doesn't always turn out like that, David. It's not always that simple. Right. We have a ziplet. Get this chair around here. And I've also got a pretty big announcement, but I'm not going to share it just yet. I know that's really cryptic, but within the next 3 weeks, there's a big thing happening, and I'm going to share it with all you guys. But right now, all I'm telling you is that there is a big thing happening. Now, this here, egg tempera. I'm going to say this, guys. This is really important. Everyone's like, it didn't work for me, or are you worried about using eggs? This entire piece we're making today uses about 75% of one egg. So we don't use a whole lot of eggs. And on top of that too, if you use cheap barn eggs, or if you use even any egg almost from the supermarket, they've sat around for too long, or the chickens haven't had good diets and they're not healthy enough, and it just won't work for painting with. You need the freshest of the fresh eggs. So the eggs I typically use come from eggs raised on my parents' farm. And it's night and day, guys. It's like cheap paint that you give to toddlers to use, that's safe for them to use with their hands, versus expensive professional oils. Like, it's two different eggs entirely. You wouldn't think it would be that night and day. You think eggs and egg. No, apparently not. I thought so when I first started, but as I started to get more aware of the way the paint moves, you cannot do egg tempera, or it will not have a glow. That kind of sounds obvious. Now I say that. The paint will not glow if a chicken was not healthy. If the chicken's not healthy and happy, your paint's going to have this dull effect to it. If it's a healthy, happy chicken, beautiful, fresh egg, bang, paint's alive. And that's not surprising, right? No one's surprised by that. Right, let's get our first colores. Right. Okay, I get the point, Seb. We're making the paint, but what's the first colour going to be? And start painting. And that's totally fair enough. Totally fair enough. Now, the rain started coming down yesterday, but the piece we're working on is this one right behind me, if you can just see it there, just out of frame. And we've given it a name, which I think is kind of fun. Guys, we called that piece from yesterday Jacked. And that's kind of a couple of things. First off, people said it kind of looked like Hugh Jackman. And second off, Jacked is a type of protein powder, not protein powder, pre-workout that is quite infamous. So it's kind of like a double meaning name. Now, let's get this into it. Bryce, welcome on in. Hello, Joanne. Let's move the colour. I'm doing good today. I think you want to get everything right before you start, team. Otherwise, you can end up. All right. Creative time. I'm going to move you around here a little bit, guys, so you can see the artwork more front on. That's your position. You're in position. I'm in position. The artwork's in position. I'm going to scroll back to the comments section. And here we go. Now, this is pigment paste. So strong, potent pigments. Really, really potent colour. The colours that you see it going on with is the colours it will stay in. And then, sorry guys, I was going to say, you got to forgive me here. If you see me moving a little bit weird today, or like being a bit stiff, I have got the biggest kink, not like that, down my neck. It is absolutely wild right now. So if I'm standing a little bit weird, or if I'm a little bit more rigid, I still believe in wild, fun, crazy art. Trust me, I do. I really do. But my neck is just something else. I don't know how I slept on it, but I guess that comes with age. I'm 31 now. The juicy old age of 31. Now, with the first layer, we can get quite brash with we paint. Because even the darker areas are going to need to go darker still. The lighter areas, we've got white paint today, so we can bring that back. Yeah, I don't think Kyle need a massage as much as I just need to give it some time. But it is proper kinked. We're also going to try today too to take a bit more time with the strokes and not be quite. Yesterday with the jacked portrait, we were quite intense on the scuffling brush strokes. Today I want more calm. Not what picture demands it, but I just want to see how calm behaves on this paper. Again, this is egg tempera mixed with gouache. So gouache is providing the pigments. Usually to mix up egg tempera, you use a well-ventilated space. But if you use gouache, those pigments are already combined with water, so it's effectively a pigment paste. But with the one catch that you're given a little bit of guar gum, so the paint behave a little bit differently than conventional egg tempera. But with the fun of actually removing almost every single possible chemical, heavy metal, and everything you could ever ask for. So I can paint here, and my brain, my health, my lungs are all completely safe. How wild's that? Hello, Steve. Welcome on in, Steve. I think you'd be excited to know. I was speaking with someone this morning, Steve. I was speaking with the team at the Quartus Hotel, and we are going to get that thing resolved in the next 100 hours. He said he's so sorry it's taken a while, but he said the good thing is, I said, don't worry about a thing. Steve says it's an early Christmas present, so we've got literal months, mate. Literal months. So, oh, that's fantastic. And I'm going to try and do some more stronger edges on this one. Not as a hard, fast rule. Just get some more bolder shapes in there. See how that actually gets our end result popping. Feeling good, baby. Need a bit more liquid in here. It's actually it's like, if I was to explain this kind of painting to anyone who's done some painting in their spare time before, imagine watercolors that you can paint over, that don't say, that don't reactivate. This is watercolor that you can layer that won't reactivate. So I, in a way, because I don't like those things, I don't like paint to reactivate. I like it to stay where I left it, so I can intensively layer what I'm doing. I look at this as taking all the bad parts out of watercolor. And the other thing that happens with watercolor too, and this is the reason why I never use watercolor, saturation. The colors always seem a little bit washed out. Do you know what I'm talking about? The fact that, Bertie, you'll know what I'm talking about. You're an artist. I'm talking about watercolors seeming like they're a little bit more washed out. Now, that doesn't mean don't do it, but I'm the type of artist that uses color. I need color, abundant, saturated color, and I'm sitting there late at night, up, thinking to myself, how can I make more color in the artwork for the human eye? And I think about lights, and I think about LCD screens, and this stuff's great, but actually at a certain point, the LCD screens, like the wallpapers we see on computers, they reach their capacity, because what happens is the light coming out of the screen, just trying to shine it for you, impacts the actual colors you're seeing. So what I've landed on as the best way to get color into the human eye is actually gouache. Gouache paint has the thickest, heaviest pigment lumps, particles, and you combine that gouache with the egg tempera, so the light feels like it's naturally coming from inside, and the particles of colour are as big as they can be. You see this? Look at this mix here. It's really wet, team. Really wet. But the application here, how intense is that colour? It's as if I've actually, if you've ever painted a house, you'd be like, well, to get colour that intense, you'd need a priming coat, you'd need 2 layers of the paint, blah, blah, blah. But I can get it just with this painting technique, which I kind of like. I think there was some comment there, how very different to how I paint. Love how we all have different techniques. Yeah, and a lot of the time people are like, oh, I hate that line. I hate it. Oh, I'm not as good as other artists. If you consider art to be feelings, and just entertain that thought for a moment, imagine saying the stupid comment of, oh, I don't have as much feelings as other people. Like, not even the most masculine man can say that. If he did, it'd be him hiding behind. You just know he had more stone walls up about how he felt. Everyone has feelings and everyone has capacity to feel. But what we lack sometimes is the correct means to display that to the world. A lot of the time we end up, sometimes you see people who are oil painters, say, and they find their true feat in sculpture. You find people who have made music, but actually never fully connected until they started watercolors. You find people who are painters who actually became better poets. It's about finding a medium in which you can bring your feelings and your own expression into reality. What's that for you? And sometimes, I mean, the heart does this. You fall in love with something. And so you say, no, I'm a watercolor painter, or I'm a acrylic landscape painter, and I'll do this till I die because I believe in it. Your heart is allowed to change. It's allowed to develop. It's allowed to alter. But most importantly, you have to give it permission to try and find those ways to bring itself into the world. Acting, another good one. Actors who are better singers, or actors that are also phenomenal singers. Think of Hugh Jackman. He's probably the most successful case in my mind of an actor who's fantastic at it, who combines musical theatre. Like, every time you see a musical with Hugh Jackman in it, you know the acting is going to be phenomenal. The music's going to be this beautiful partnership with the movie, instead of sometimes it feels like the movie pauses, song number happens, and then it goes back to movie. And I hate that. But I never got that feeling from, is it Les Mis? And I never got that feeling from Greatest Showman. Not at all, not in the slightest. Hey, I also forgot one other thing. With the tempera, egg tempera is very, very fine. And so I can actually get a high level of detail. Because one thing you'll know about gouache paintings, if you Google it, they typically lack a lot of detail. So much detail. Because gouache is so, this is going to sound mean, but it's quite bundy. You know, it's quite encumbered and hard to move around, and definitely does not thrive on detail. So we're getting the best parts of gouache with the best of tempera, that accuracy and that glow. And if you're wondering, if you cared, if you're joining here now and you're wondering if you want to stay, we're bringing this picture to completion today. And if you can't stay, that's okay. I forgive you. But you can catch the replay, not the entire video, that'll be up too, but you can catch the replay in reel form, like the little short videos. And I just put it together in 10 seconds, which is kind of fun. And then you've also got the full replay, if you're into that. And sometimes, honestly guys, people prefer that more. And I think the reason they prefer that more is if you're first time watching me, thinking this is going anywhere takes a lot of trust. And if you give that trust to every stranger, life can get quite tiring quite fast. But if you actually jump out, catch a replay, go, okay, I see how this got made now. Then the next time you join, or it's nice to know the journey's going somewhere is what I'm saying. Rather than just having blind faith that every TikTok live is going to have a destination. I get caught up on some lives thinking something's going to happen, and I kind of get let down a little bit, guys. Maybe I'm just being too needy, too demanding. I don't know, I'll ask my partner tonight. Am I too needy? She's going to say yes. Here we go. Beautiful. And there we are. As soon as I start running out of things to say, what happens? I start singing. It's a disaster, guys. It's a medical condition. It's called sing through the awkward silence syndrome. We all struggle with it. What are you painting? You'll see. You'll see. It'll jump out at you soon, and you'll be like, "Oh my God, it's worse than I thought." Asking 12 days, can you draw Philippines on the next live? I mean, that's pretty exciting. I don't quite understand the comment though. You're asking in 12 days, the next live will be tomorrow morning. And can I draw the Philippines, like the outline of the country? That's pretty exciting too. But I had a face planned. But you know what I love more than anything? Your enthusiasm. It's infectious. Look at that. The question is though, do we have any subscribers in the room who can recommend the next colour to charge off with? G'day Wade, welcome on in. Am I a fan of Bob Ross? So that's an outrageous question. Am I a fan of someone whose professional career was built around putting more happiness into the world? No, I hate that. That makes me really uncomfortable. Come on. I love that guy. His artwork, there's a little bit too much planning in it for my liking as a professional piece. But that being said, I actually own, who knows Magic the Gathering card games? I own the secret, now, without getting into the politics of Magic the Gathering, they do these things called secret lair drops, which are like promotional cards, and we're not going to get into how that affects anything, but I did buy one. I bought the Bob Ross land set. So in the game, you use lands to pay for spells and creatures to battle your opponent in an ancient medieval whatever. It's as cool as it sounds. And in those battles, land is kind of like the mana, the resource you use to do this. And there's 5, well, I don't know what there is now, but there was historically 5 different colours. And I got one of each of the 5 colours in one of each of the kinds of lands that Bob Ross has painted. So the snowy ones or the water ones are his lakes. The swampish ones, he's got one for that. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, beautiful mana. I haven't played with them. I've left them in the box. I'm one of those kind of guys, I collect it and then I hold on to it. Never to sell. Never to sell. Just to have and love. And if I haven't played in a while, guys. I've been playing this new game called Fab a lot, which is a New Zealand card game with amazing artwork. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Does anyone here play Fab? We can have a match up on Teleshar after this. I'm terrible. I'm not a good player. It's just my little health and well-being therapy thing that I do straight late at night when I can't tackle any more emails and things. I load up Livia. It's always Livia, guys. Because I just like rolling the dice. That'll make it if you play the game. There we go. can sneak up there, just like that. We're going to come back to this color. But now, my friends, we're going to dive in with the next one. Now, guys, I don't want to get us hyped up on an idea that might not happen, because I've done that before. I've got a plan. I've started photographing the work quickly myself, straight after painting it. And yesterday, we were here painting the picture. And we may continue on it, but I like it right now. But painting that picture behind me here. And what's really, really cool about that is it's already available on my website as a print. And the plan is here too. The plan is to paint this right now with you guys. Then straight after I'm finished it, make it available on the website as a print. We're working on a few little things that could be quite fun with that too. We've got some discounts to apply to it if you were here in the live and all that sort of stuff. So if you join for the process, you can get it at a cheaper rate for 24 hours or something. But at the moment, I just said to Shelby, just put it on the website for the discounted rate until I can figure out how to make the system do it automatically. If that makes sense. And cheers, Jay. Everyone who jumps in these lives and hangs out with me and mashes the screen to get likes on it. Because we go live a lot, guys. And so, like, it's not just about the likes you put on the stream. It's about the likes you put on the streams that we do almost daily. You're an absolute bunch of champions. I just wish it would show, like, a tally of the week's like or something like that, because that's more fair if someone like Jay or Steve or Jules or whoever, Ryan, is hammering the like button over and over, and then the live breaks for some reason or goes offline, or we start live again tomorrow. I think it's a good way to acknowledge the effort that went in to get as many likes as were there. Doesn't need to be a whole lot, just something. But I think we're on over 100,000 right now for the week, guys, I reckon. Definitely over 50,000. And if we like this style as well, using this medium, using this method, one thing I can do is I can actually start ordering obscenely large paper to actually replicate a canvas. This is the same paper. This is part of the fun, guys. Those prints I let out are done on a certain kind of paper called Hannibal German etching. I thought, how can I make these replications more like the real thing? Steve, this follows on from our conversation. And I realized probably the most fun way to do that is to paint on the same kind of paper. So I've got the same paper here that the prints go on. And the effect that has, guys, I didn't quite notice would occur. This is why you play. This is why you play. The effect that has on the actual paint itself is it ripples over the textures of the paper. And so when it actually gets printed on the paper, that same texture the original has and the way the paint's affected by it appears on the print. And there's a wonderful, wonderful continuity to that I'm a big fan of. Big fan of. Lilo. It's therapeutic watching me paint. Well, Lilo, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Absolute pleasure. Now, we're doing a lot of the dark areas in this painting, but bear in mind that all these areas in white, there's a huge amount of light in this painting. And so it's taking a lot of restraint, actually, to stay out of these bigger areas and just allow them to exist until we start combining more more, till we start combining more whites into our colour palette. That's our plan anyway. That is our plan. Right, let's get a little bit through. Yeah, now we're talking to it. There's another little dark area sweeping down through here. Fun thing about this as well is the pace in which it's coming together. You might get to start seeing what we're dealing with. But if you can't see it, it's also primo. I'm trying to make, even if it stays in a bit more of an abstract form, I'm trying to make it quite fun and clean to look at any points within it. There we go. Sweep down through there. There we are. Beautiful. Absolutely stunning. Whew. Gene Summers, link in bios. Click on. Oh, cheers, Ryan. Did I miss a message there? It looks like I missed a message there. And hey, Mary. Hey, O. Welcome on in, guys. Oh, cheers, Christine. Christine Dahlia. Christine Dahlia. I like the name. Is it Dahlia? I love dahlias. I think dahlias. Oh, hold on. Let me just. I was about to say, I think dahlias are my favourite flower, but I think I'm reneging on now. It might be lilies. Can I fester on it for a little bit? I need to think about that. Oh, what is that name there? Square. Oh my God, love your. Thanks, Square. I appreciate it. And cheers, Ryan. Ryan, you're taking up a mantra there. You're an absolute legend. Ryan's like, no worries, chat is here to answer. And I'm like, that doesn't change how cool it makes you being if I miss things. You know, it's a juggling act, guys, because we did have that camera at one point that would show me the comments here beside the easel. And while that was nice, the issue we faced with that is I would then look at the painting and the comments and I'd never talk to you. And I went back and watched some of those replays and I thought, you're not doing a collaborative process, you're not talking to people. And so I actually reconfigured it and thought, no, if you're going to read what someone says, do them the respect of looking at them and reading the comment and then going back to the art. That it felt like it was a disconnect, if that makes sense. It felt like a disconnect. And then we've got a bro. I haven't read what it says, but someone said bro. And I can only assume if you say bro, it should be followed by a comma and a space. Right? That's correct English. But it says bro, and there's a question after it, but I'm just going to put down this little bit more paint. Here we go. Coming on in. Remember with school at canteen, remember at the school canteen, I miss that. I don't really remember my school canteen, so I can't help you. And how did you get into painting? Wait, there was a bro there. I saw a bro. Lilies are gorgeous, just like this artwork. You're a champion. Thank you. I wonder what the bro comment was now. I've missed out. So I got into painting from a very, very young age. I've been painting for most of my life, but probably, my mum hates it when I say this, but probably what got me into painting the most was my mother was, she had a philosophy towards parenting of that rather than making your child what you want them to be. She was quite determined on figuring out who the child was. And so for me, she's got the oldest brother. I've got 3 brothers. The oldest brother is a lawyer. The youngest brother's a mathematician, and I'm an artist. And so we're all very, very different people, career path-wise. Now, that's testament to our mother, who actually, for each of us, tried to notice who we were and then spend her time trying to actually, what's the correct term here, exacerbate that, grow that, nurture that. And so for me, she noticed I loved clay. She noticed I loved paint. She noticed I loved creating, making, seeing, using my hands, colour. And as a parent, when you notice that, you can then take steps to make the child more of that. So that's what happened with me. But probably the biggest step, and I was talking about it yesterday, was we had these phenomenal glass panels outside our beach house when we were younger. We rented a house down by the beach in Mount Maunganui. It's the name of the town. 2 to 3 hours south of here, 3 hours south of here. And in that house, these glass panels, every morning I'd wake up and I'd paint them with some cheap tempera-like paint. And then every night I would come out with a hose and hose them down clean again. And we'd do this on repeat, over and over and over again. Like day and night, sun comes up, sun goes down. Both of us just doing this dance. And I never ever got paint by numbers books. Never, ever, ever. That was the one thing my mother was really against. I had to figure out how to do horses and faces and stimulate myself creatively. And from that came this just, I didn't realize at the time, but abundant confidence to do whatever you want to do with your style. Instead of thinking, oh, I'd need a guideline to draw a lion or a rhino, or to do a miner, or to paint a truck or a car. I just, if you've seen these lives before, I just go for broke. What's the term? Hell for leather. And just create and give it my best go, because that's the way I've always known how to do it, or been forced to do it. And so I've never really felt like there was a container that held me back. But the challenge I faced, especially as a young artist, was because I had that abundant freedom, I would then, and this is a arrogance thing, I would then assume that I knew what other people wanted to see me paint. And so I'd stop doing paintings for me and start doing things to try and please people, which of course is the ugliest kind of self-expression. You need to do it for you. That's amazing. Hey, thanks, Miss Honey. Good to have you back in here. Your mum sounds like a legend. Lilo, she is. She is. She's an incredible woman. Yeah, great role model. So is my father. 2 great people. This is what makes life interesting, right? Go, Mum, for accepting you all for who you are. That's the... and then we got the question there coming on back up. Oh, this one looks amazing. How did you get into painting? Tough work, bruv. I'm just not cool enough for the word bruv. Now that I'm a father, I really do appreciate that element of it's less about the child you want and more about finding out what sort of child you have, and then making sure you do your best to do right by them. Fun journey. But it's funny because you start your family by picking your partner a lot of the time. You choose who you want your life partner to be, but you obviously don't pick your children. They're now a member of your family as much as you and your partner are, if not more so. And what's really interesting about that is that puts the 2 of you on a journey together. But I guess you could say that the child is the first family member that you didn't get to choose. I know you got your brothers and your sisters, your mother and your father and things, this is true. But when you choose your partner and start your own little plan, you have your own space, you have your own dreams, your own quests. It's slightly different. Are you a Kiwi? Yes, indeed. And Chloe Sunflower. I do sell the art. In fact, cool thing with it this time, the original's going to take a bit longer because I need to get it all perfect. There's framing, boxes, and all sorts of stuff to do. But the print of this piece, if you like this piece, if you're having fun here, the print of this piece is going to be available on the website tonight. How cool is that? Usually it's been taking me months to get prints available, but tonight this one's going to be up in the print store. And I think to get it anywhere in the world, I need to check this, but I think to anywhere in the world with a certificate of authenticity, carbon neutral, so end to end, completely no effect on the environment. To get it to Canada, the US, Madagascar, wherever, it's $65. And that comes beautifully packaged. Comes with a certificate of authenticity that says you've got the real deal. And it comes with the archival quality to last. To last for how long? The ink will last for over 80 years. If it's longer than that, if it's well cared for. The paper, I think the guaranteed archival life on that's 100 years. You're buying it for generations, guys, is what I'm saying. It won't fade. Look after it. It's like getting a nice watch. It'll just last and last and last. Now, part of getting it to go out in the world faster has been, there are not framing options though. Usually on the website you can choose a frame and I'll put it in something for you. But for these prints, to get them up as fast as I'm talking, you only get the choice of size. How big do you want it? And the fun behind that is that when you get your work, the one that speaks to you, the one that you like the most, and it may be none of them, but if you find one you do connect with, that's rare. If you find connection with a piece, don't overlook that. There's so many things stimulating you out in this world, so many things trying to grab your attention and manipulate you in different ways. If you do feel real connection with something, we're talking about a carving at a farmer's market, we're talking about something handmade or a song that you're hearing, whatever it might be, artwork, don't run from that, enjoy that, and get a part of that in your life. A lot of people go, I don't buy artwork. I'm too afraid to, I don't have the taste for it. I don't know what to like. I don't know what to like. Imagine if someone said that about dating. I'm too afraid to find a wife or to date anyone. I just don't know what I like. You'd be like, well, that's just silly. Try going on a few dates and you'll quickly figure it out. Or more importantly, you might figure out what you do not like. I think that's highly possible. If you figure out what you don't like, just like with art, figuring out what you don't like is as potent as running into something that you do like, because it tells you more about yourself to better understand what you do want from life. How do you feel the colour quality of your prints turns out? Rob the night. This is a great question because a lot of the time you see pretty pictures on the screen and then you order it off, Etsy or wherever, and it arrives and it's dull. So first thing to look for with prints is special little term, Giclee, Kickley, or whatever you want to call it. That means that the print quality is very different. It's been sprayed on, and it's a much, much more high definition quality. But then where a lot of people will cut costs is with paper. And you'll be thinking, what is it so complicated for? They'll cut costs with paper by using low quality paper. Now, as you'll know with painting, if you've got low quality canvas or paper or board or whatever, it's not primed right, just like a house. If you're about to paint it, if it's not primed right, or the old boards, there's no way you're going to get a high quality paint finish. So, good paper and good printing technique, good ink, and you'll get what's called a color perfect print. A color perfect print means exactly what the colors are in real life are what shows up on the print form. And gouache actually has an extra step it goes through to be even better. You'd be like, ugh. It does, because it's matte, it doesn't have that satin glow. Things that have that satiny glossy effect are great for the physical artwork. But for reproductions, that glossy color can reflect, and that reflection loses saturation, which is not what you intended or what you wanted. So, using a more matte effect, photographing the work, and then if you do want a more satin or glossy finish, to then give it that after you've got the high resolution scans. That's the key. But these works here, the ones on the website, pristine. What you see on the website is what you get in real life. Actually, hold on, I'll show you one. I've actually bought one that I'm flattening out right now. So, here we go. I love this one. This is the paper. So there's a certificate of authenticity, all the packaging's gone. I've had this one sitting under, just getting it flattened out gently, because this size comes rolled, see. So this is what it looks like. This is Solo Gala 1. Actually, a guy named Brian purchased one of these and sent me a message. I'm like, you know what? Oh, I want to own a Solo Gala too. If I bring this up here, you can see that color, that is as saturated as the original. That's what we're after. And if I bring it right up, you can see the degree of detail as well. There's no chill on the detail in these. So, but the thing that we're working on here versus Solo Gala is that Solo Gala is done on canvas. So it's beautiful, beautiful, saturated, popping, massive, shrunk down to a smaller size, which is nice. But if we did it on paper, then the same texture, that velvety feel of the paint, would be part of the print as well, which is part of the plan. And Jules, you know about this. You know about this because your mum owns a print. So you are aware of the printing process. Are you not? But I hope that answers your questions there. Or was that Robin? I forget who asked the original question. But I think we did answer it though. I think we nailed that. Did we nail that? He's like, I was asking about natural timber frames. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, you did in spades. Perfect. And what was the name there? Rob the Knight. Perfect. Cheers, Rob the Knight. I appreciate that. I also appreciate you hanging around to hear the answer. A lot of the times I'll go off on a 20-minute yarn, and the poor group that didn't ask the question still there listening. And the person who initially asked it has been like, okay, I got to go. And so it's just me yammering on at a point to people who never asked to hear it. Awkward. Very awkward. So, if you are going to make prints of any kind, that's what to look for if you're an artist. And if you're going to buy prints, ask those questions. What kind of archival life does it have? What kind of paper is it going on? You don't need to know about paper, guys, personally. But you can just go, what kind of paper is it going on? And the biggest red flag is if they come back, the creator comes back and says, oh, just paper, what are you worried about? That's a bad sign. That's a bad sign. Not all paper is created equal. If they come back and say, you know, something confusing like so-and-so German photo rag, you'll be like, cool. Then just jump on ChatbotGPT or jump on Google and search it. And it will quickly tell you, it'll say, yes, this is for fine art applications. This will hold its ink well. This will last well. This is acid-free. Acid-free, all that means is if it's acid-free, it doesn't, acid over time will deteriorate the paper and sometimes yellow. But if it's acid-free, it means it's pH balanced, which will mean that it'll just last and last and last. So typically when we talk about acid-free anything, that's an archival element. Archival just means that it'll last. You'll be like, I just want something pretty for my wall. That's cool. But if you are going to spend, you know, upwards of $100 US on something, that's a purchase. But we'd like the idea to know that if you did buy something like art, that it would either retain its value or go up. I think that's a fair desire to have. But if your art's built to destroy itself, like I sort of feel like when we use, and who was that there? Thanks, Cara. I feel like, I say we, but when artists use low quality ink techniques or low quality paper, or canvas and paint, you know, in the finished products, sometimes we're doing our best. So please don't think or have a go at anyone who's doing that. Sometimes it's what we can afford and we're doing our best. If you have the ability and the knowledge to do another method, not making the work archival, I believe builds in planned obsolescence. And that's not fair to collectors, especially if you take a long position, because if you're just a budding artist, like starting your career, to make your artwork not last 20 years, that's so unfair on a collector who thinks, I like this artist, I want to buy in at the ground level, you know, before the work starts to appreciate. And you do that, and then in 20 years' time when the artist is famous, you're like, I have this yellowed, old, colourless piece that they made. I swear they made it, but it's no longer beautiful. It has to last. And a good ballpark place to put it on, I would say, is archival life of 50 years. Personally, I want 800 to 2000, but 50 years is fair on a collector, because 50 years would mean that they can have it, they can enjoy it for their life, and then they can sell it when it's still in the condition to be enjoyed by someone else. So that taking a long stance on something and owning something of value that they, you know, like the Bob Ross lands that I own for that collectible card game, I'm never going to sell them. But it would break my heart to then suddenly learn that they were now worthless because they'd lost their colour or their shine. They've never been sold, but I want to know they're worth something. It's a weird human psychology. Build your art to last. And now that we've got things like ChatbotGPT and there's books, oh my God, I'm going to grab a book for you guys now. I'm so sorry, this is turning into a lecture, but I'm going to go grab this book because it's so important. You'll probably lose connection with me just for a moment, but this is so important, guys. You know I get on rants about this kind of stuff. All right, After I make this point, I'm gonna shut up. I swear I'll move on. But I just found this as well. American Modernism. I am so lucky to have this. This is from a collector called John, and I'm going to show you this piece of artwork in here. I hope John doesn't mind, but it's from a exhibition they hosted, and there's one work in here that just I love. Here we are. This one here. It's absolutely stunning. Now this picture here is not going to do it enough justice, but it's just beautiful, guys. Just beautiful. It's 24 by 29 inches. Impressionist, wonderful landscape. Oh, that's the kind of old art that gets me excited, guys. That gets me very excited. Now, this is the book, last bit of the lecture. So I'm not going to talk about any more to do with archival, binders, solvents, whatever. There's so much nonsense on the internet that now, to learn what the old masters were doing, you need to refer back to books. This is the Painter's Handbook, and this thing here is the primo cremaldi crop to learning about. And Mark David has no idea who I am. But I will say that he's written one excellent book. So he'll tell you all about things like the substrates, using tools, talking about different pigments, all the details on them. Everything's in this book. So when it comes to thinking, I want to make watercolor, gouache, egg tempera, acrylics, whatever, building canvases, I need to make it archival, I need to make it right. If you want to copy the techniques that are tried and true for the last several hundred years, this is your option. And there's only really one book that does a good job of this, and it's the Painter's Handbook. Now, everyone else is out there showing you videos, doing quick stuff, and sometimes it's just nonsense. But that Painter's Handbook will always give you the best feedback, because when we talk about archival, the people with the proof are the ones who figured out how to do it 600 years ago, and it's still lasting. Egg tempera, the oldest method known to man. The oldest, well, not known to man, but the oldest living artwork is egg tempera. That's not true either. Egg tempera has the best archival qualities. The Last Supper, 2,000 years old, is made with egg tempera. They suspect the base layers in Mona Lisa is egg tempera. Leonardo da Vinci was an egg tempera painter before he moved to oils. This stuff lasts and lasts and lasts and lasts. It's delicate. It is delicate. But anything worth doing usually is. And if you can get egg tempera, that beautiful, beautiful egg tempera, to be there and just last in your life, usually a glass shield, a UV, we've got the technology now to have glass that protects from UV rays. One of those in front of the painting, and hello 100 years, hello 200 years, whatever, it's gonna last. And Jay, thanks for subscribing, you absolute legend. And Miss Honey. Cheers, guys. I really, really appreciate that. And we're actually in the last 2 or so minutes of the live with TikTok. So TikTok, it's like a TikTok TV thing, which is kind of fun. But don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. So we've got a bit more to do on this one yet before we list it as a print. If you have enjoyed this piece and it looks kind of fun, in about 8 hours, it'll be up on the website as a print. Now, I'm working on a way to get you guys a specific discount. Like, you know, I'm not sure where it's going to be, but I'm going to work that out. But before I do, the prints are just, these prints are just up at the discounted rate. So, rather than charge you guys more, I think it's a pretty clever method. And it's the cheapest prints I've ever had on offer. Because I've done a few little tweaks. You can't get them in frames. It's the exact same quality ink and paper, but it's like, how can I get the best quality product to you guys anywhere in the world for the most reasonable price? It's like that dancing situation. And the first thing I had to kick out was the frames, guys. So the old legacy work, I say old legacy work, the famous paintings that we really like, they're still there with frames, but it gets really expensive on shipping between a giant glass frame and actually having a rolled canvas, say. So I thought, well, what's the real value here? Because a lot of collectors actually have people who do framing for them. Or, more importantly, if they are able to afford the print, but the frame can be a stretch, being able to go to even a thrift shop. There's some amazing frames in thrift shops, and actually get one of those and embellish their space. Who am I to deny them art? So we've had a few little... I've been thinking about that. I think about this a lot, guys. Hope you have a good one. I'm off to do some painting now. Well, Miss Honey, I hope the painting session goes well, you absolute champion. I used to paint goldfish. I like that. One of the kinds of artwork I love is paintings, usually from Chinese or Japanese paintings of koi fish. There's a precise nature to the craft of how those are made that just, it's not what I ever personally want to do, but I feel it, I like it. It's beautiful. It's quite simply beautiful. There we go. Lovely. And I plugged in all my gizmos and gadgets the other night, all of them. So our microphone isn't going to die, which is nice because normally that dies. We got plenty of paint. I made some more egg tempera this morning. This is a fresh batch. If we get bored of the surface, I've got more underneath. So that's nice. And what else have I got? A fully charged phone. Oh my God, sorry guys. That's why I left the other day, suddenly yesterday. My phone, I was like, why does the screen keep going dark? It was on 1% and it just died straight after I hung up the live. That's a good question, Richard. And the answer is not so much now that I've got a daughter. I end up spending most my days just staring at my daughter rather than going to the gym. And it's starting to show. So I'm going to fix that. But for the meantime, I'm having the best time of my life, guys. Staring at your offspring feels so good. Especially when they're a little cute tacker that's not crying. Oh my God. Do you make your own colors? So great question. The answer is no. I don't make my own pigment powders or pastes. I purchase pigment pastes and pigment powders. Usually the best one I like is designer gouache combined with egg tempera. That's a win. But there are some amazing people. I follow them on TikTok and Instagram who make all the pigments from scratch. Now, if you're gonna do that, be very, very careful because doing something yourself can sometimes impede how archival it is. Even though we're getting into a situation where things get very processed, for something like paint or pigments, that process, and let me show you something, that process can actually make it the most refined. And there's actually some colors that get even better off if you make them synthetically. Like this one here is a fake version because the real version is literally worth its weight in gold. That's that's the same was made for this pigment right here. See that? This is ultramarine blue. So it's a very, very finely ground up powder. And just look at it, it looks like it's glowing. That is literally just pigment powder. Now, in its powdered form, you want to be very, very careful that you don't inhale it because it's so fine, it can get into your lungs and do damage. You want to avoid that. But you cannot make this by yourself. This is synthetically created by the French, actually. They put out a bounty. I think it was in 1836. They said, right, or was it 1818? Ignore my dates. I was terrible at dates at university as well. They put out a bounty and said, someone figure out how to make this ultramarine color. Please sort it out. How do we do it? And a Frenchman actually figured it out. And that's why it's just called ultramarine, but it's usually called French ultramarine blue. And that's because the French figured out how to synthetically make it. And overnight, not overnight, but exaggeration, the price plummeted from being worth as much as gold. That version still is, that ground up crystal or rock or whatever, to being a synthetically made one as cheap as all the other colors. Big moment. So sometimes those synthetic colors actually made certain pigments like purple, which used to come from like the ink of shellfish, and or snails. It used to stink, I remember that. I don't remember it, but I read that. But it makes these things accessible to us. So the fact that I've got that much ultramarine blue, that would be the way to gold. Sorry, Seb, I'm just joining. What powder are you using? And Seb, is middays his paintings turn into gold? Cheers. I appreciate that, guys. How often do you use it? And okay, the French. Yes, so the French, obviously, especially in the 19th and 20th century, massive movers and shakers in the art world. Now, I keep this ultramarine blue. I see from the base there, you see that, just the potency of the color. I keep a bit of this all the time because sometimes I just want to make pure egg tempera, and this does the business. But today we're using gouache paint. So we have these tiny little tubes of paint which hold pigment paste. This can be better because the pigment particles in gouache are thicker, so although it goes a little bit more matte, it doesn't have that shine to it. You can see here, that's why the colors are popping. There's no reflecting quality to it. They are more saturated. This is very potent. But if you get this, sorry for the mixing, bunch of ways to do it. You can get a palette knife and put it there and just... I hate that. For me personally, I just get the brush, I mix it, and people will be like, oh, but doesn't it do it completely? Not all the time, actually. Yeah, you're right. Sometimes it doesn't completely mix in, but I can't be bothered mashing away with a palette knife for ages, guys. As long as you don't shake it too vigorously, you can put a lid on a bottle, give it a bit of a... Don't shake it too much, otherwise you're going to make a pavlova with whipped egg. But if you shake it just enough and then wait for the bubbles to go down, that's another fun way to mix it up. At the end of the day, you figure out what resources you've got and what patience you've got. We'll decide how you mix it. You don't need anything intensive for gouache and egg tempera. See this here? This is the egg tempera dripping down here, and you can see when you leave it, it does get a little bit more, what's the term? Separates. But once you mix it, it won't unmix. And so since it's paste into liquid, there's not an intensive palette knife exercise or any of this sort of stuff that actually shakes up the art form. You're much, much more like mixing a medium into acrylic or oils. It's really not a big deal. But we're not just speaking to artists here too, guys. This is, if you're a collector and you own a print, or if you are looking at getting an original work, it's just fun to know how it works behind the scenes. And this replay will always be up, so you can refer back to it too if you be like, he was saying something about eggs and then he went on to yarn about something else. I really didn't fully understand it, but trust me, it's something to do with this and it will do this. This video will live and you can go check it. And cheers, Solari. New York, beautiful. Welcome in from New York. Where is my sheep? I don't actually own any sheep. I'm in a beach house. My family does, my mother and father, but That's 3 hours south of here. Coming on back in. Down, 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 down. Hello, welcome on in. And then someone else was saying they'd learned so much today. That's good. That's good. I hope you had fun too. I do get myself caught up when we start talking about archival things and paint techniques. I usually have to force myself to say, go to YouTube, and there's some amazing videos there, but sometimes I feel like some of the YouTube videos can be misleading at times, and so I get myself on a proper rant about how tempera works. So thanks for tolerating that from me, guys, because I know I've been told, Shelby tells me, she says, you're ranting at me. I'm like, what do you mean? You're doing what you do in your lives. I try not to, guys. Every day better, that's the motto. Do better. A Gorgie, oh thank you, Domain. Welcome on in. Good to have you here. Now let's get this. We've definitely enjoyed ourselves up here, but there's some love that needs to go in down here. And I feel like let me haul myself up here, I've been negligent on the bottom fifth of this painting, and I will strive to do better. Hello Tosh, is that the Tosh.0 from that show? Great to see you here on TikTok. I hope it's going well for you. Thought your show was lovely. A little bit on the nose for me sometimes, but I'm not cool, so, and you were, so I'll listen to what you say. You know, guys, I'm getting a bit, this sounds so silly because I'm only 31, but I'm getting a bit past jumping on new shows and new shows. Look at this new show that's out. Look at this one. Look at this one. Have you seen Scandal? I'm just putting on reruns of Friends these days, guys. If I'm putting on TV, it's for, what's the term? Not mental health, wellness. Bit of wellness, bit of health, and I'm just going to watch reruns of Friends because it's so nice. Predictably silly with Ross and Rachel. Predictable jokes from Chandler. Outrage from Monica. Ridiculousness from Phoebe. It's just nice, simple. And sometimes that simplicity is what we need in life, because at the moment, everywhere I look, things get more and more complicated. And they don't need to, guys. They don't need to. They can actually simplify. So I think anything that makes the moment we're simpler and more enjoyable is something we should strive to exacerbate. Is that the right word? Maybe that's not the right word. Here we go. Seb, Scandal has been off for years. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What is it? Suits. Suits. And who's that there? Perfectly cut vids. Well, proud of you. I wish I could do that. Or let's call it House of Dragon. Guys, I'm sure it's great. I hear it's great. I don't have time. I've got a baby and I want to give my attention to the baby but kind of tune into the TV. So that's where things like Friends just is so great. You can jump out of an episode, jump back in, and it's all fine. How are you so good at painting? Perfectly cut vids. It's funny you say that because painting's very subjective, so I'm glad you like it, but if you've been here before, you'll know that some people really don't. And we were painting did doing 2 portraits at once the other day, having a great time. And someone came in and said, don't quit your day job. And it hits you hard sometimes, because on this particular day, I was really liking them. I'm like, we're on the right vibe, we're smashing paint in the right directions, and these are coming along so well. They were with oils, really intense. Not by the sea today, it's raining outside. It's rained ever since I started this live, so I'm glad we made the decision to stay indoors, because anyway, I'm not saying that these pieces of feedback shouldn't be out there, because if you're going to make love through paint, be expecting to see a little bit of negativity, because you're not intentionally polarizing emotions, but if it's going to create positive emotions, it can also, just like how you can be one person's true love but another person's nightmare. Same goes with painting. This is one person's favorite kind of style. They fall in love with it. It's all they want, and they want more of it. Or it's someone else's nightmare. How dare that artist make that? It is an affront that that even exists in this world. That's a thing. And if you feel that, it's great, because it's actually told you more about your own personal taste. And you can go off and find that out in the world somewhere, anywhere. But sometimes it gets you. And Jay Smith catches those comments pretty fast. Team mods grab the comments pretty fast, but like sometimes I read them in time, and it's like, that hurts a little bit. And of course, we always want to keep the comments in there if it's actually dislike and constructive conversation. We get rid of hate. We always get rid of hate, but dislike and constructive conversation, it's important. You can't just have a stream where everyone's like, oh, I love the art. Oh, I love the art. Oh, I love the art. There has to be a, I don't like it, but here's why. I feel like I see this. I want this, you know. That's really important. And it's funny because let's get my trail of thought back. Here we go. What was I going to say? There was I swear to God, there was a trail of thought there, guys. I lost it, but it was there. It was hanging out with me. I had it, and then it was gone. Oh well. Point made. Oh, that's right. We had a guy live one time who was really did enjoy the piece we were working on. And he actually went from the live to go into the comment section of other videos on my page to post how much he didn't like it. But it was quite funny because when he went on to the other videos, he's like, oh, wait, hold on. I actually kind of like this art. It's just that one piece I don't like. And he came back into the live and was like, oh, yeah, actually, I've gone to the page and checked it out. I really like it. I'm sorry. I'll stay around and see where this one goes. And then he said, you know what, actually, I really like this one now. So give artwork a time to grow on you. You know, don't judge things too fast. And come on down here. Even if I hated painting, I'd never say that to an artist. Look, sometimes everyone has an entitlement to use their voice, but sometimes it's hard. I was hearing a story from a lovely, lovely lady who had a husband he makes the most amazing art, and he had an exhibition, and in the exhibition, critics had a good go at him, and not via any real good reason. I've seen the art. It was a really, really good exhibition. Really good, but it wasn't what they wanted, and so they had a good crack at him. And the pity of that is after that, he stopped painting altogether. He was done. Never really put himself out there again. And so that's a powerful thing. And you could say like, oh, but like you're saying there, you've got a big community, people love the art, surely that makes it easier. Guys, let's be honest. Let's really be honest here. Do you really think any amount of compliments you get on your t-shirt make it hurt less when someone else genuinely doesn't like you? These things always sit with us because we're human. You can't help it. You can't help it. But the thing is, and I was listening to a guy he's an artist, and he was doing a talk about, he called it dealing with haters. I don't like that term for starters. Maybe I'm not cool enough for it, but I don't like that term. I think it's just dealing with other people's emotions is a better way to put it. And he's like, you do this to the hate, do that to the hate. Don't. Hurt people hurt people. If you want to have the biggest difference, or to stop the person who's just hurt you from going out and hurting other people, show them real, authentic love. Not condescendingly, not in any particular kind of way, but just see them as a human. If you're actually brave enough to see someone as a human who doesn't like you, that takes a lot. Because we have this defense mechanism that when we have someone who says, I hate your art, you're stupid, you should do something else, we dehumanize them and be like, well, we don't really go, well, that's just your opinion, man. We're like, you're an idiot. You're not on a tier of correct thinking. And we boot them into touch like that. But actually, if we can go, you're a real person with thoughts, feelings, and opinions as valuable as mine. And those opinions you hold are that you don't like me. That's okay. It takes bravery to do that. But if you do that, it'll sit with you for longer. You'll, battle with it. And so, anyway, to get over that though, to actually be able to bounce back from that, because you will have to bounce back. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you're an artist, a singer, a plumber, a dancer, a lawyer, whatever. How do you bounce back? For me, because I wear every comment, whether it's a compliment or whether it's an insult, I wear it and keep it. I sit with these things and think about them. I can't help it. I really can't. I come back to a why. Why do you do what you do? And for me, that why comes down to, well, it brings me pleasure. It brings me pleasure. There's this child or this loose little spirit inside of me that when I paint gets appeased. I love using bright colors. It feels good. It feels really good. Gene Summers, important lesson. Thanks, Gene. And I feel like, historically I always felt painting was a selfish pursuit, but in the last 4 years I've really felt how painting can actually, like my art, can bring joy and fulfillment to other people's lives. And that's when I changed. I went from being like, I'll just paint in the evenings just for me, to I need to put this art out there in the world because it has the potential to make someone's life a bit happier. And I can no longer, as an individual, deny the world that. That's not fair. So I went through a bit of a change there. And so when I come back to why, I think, right, even if 99% of people, or even if someone hates this, it's got the potential to bring a bit of pleasure out into the world, and definitely more pleasure than it has the effect. It might make one person unhappy, true, but it's going to make more people really happy. And if I can do it authentically, not just do it because for likes, they want to see a picture of a flower, I'm going to paint that, not like this, not for, not affirmation. What do you get when people confirm something for you? Not because you need it, but because you need to deeply be yourself. That sounds so cheesy, but there's that movie. Is it Any Given Sunday or Coach Carter? I say this a lot, guys. If you let your own light shine, you unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. I'm here doing it with painting. This is what I do. This is what I love. But you can do it. Validation, that's the word. But if you're actually just being yourself, and that is the most terrifying thing you could possibly ever do. They say being yourself's freeing. Yeah, it is a bit freeing. It's also a terrifying experience because being yourself, people will see that. And people see who you are. What if they don't like you? What if you actually put yourself out there in the world and people saw it and were disgusted? You'd be humiliated, and you'd know what was inside under those shields that you'd carefully developed over years and years and years was actually intrinsically ugly, and you were correct to hide it. All of those suspicions that you had were suddenly confirmed to be true, and you would have preferred just to leave the shields up, never show the world who you were, and always sit there with a fantasy that maybe if you came out to be yourself, maybe the world would accept you. And that felt better than actually coming out, being seen by the world and hated. Yeah, maybe. But that's not to say that being yourself is always going to be a fun journey. Sometimes it's not, but this weight comes off you. Yeah, the insecurity's there. Yeah, the battle's there. The challenges are going to be there. Of course they are, if not more so. Because we have this really, really good talent that if we're being someone else, a chameleon, we're people pleasing, we don't feel like someone liking us is an actual affront to who we are. We feel like, oh, they didn't like that personality I was putting on, but if they knew who I was, they'd probably like me. Well, when you're being you and someone doesn't like you, there's nothing you can hide behind. You gave the best example of who you were. They saw it, and they didn't like it. And that's okay. But that's a hard feeling to grapple with, especially if you've spent years hiding from it. You should honestly start a podcast, man. Cheers, Geordie. I appreciate that. I mean, I feel like though, Geordie, if you put me in front of a mic and had me speak, I would probably lose my trail of thought more often. Painting is the flow state I get into with painting. I feel like while I'm painting, my personal insecurities and my personal shields of who I think I have to be or all that sort of carry on fall away a little bit. I'm able to be more authentic with you guys. We do a few sessions where I just talk, but it's in the painting process that I can be the most vulnerable with you guys, and I'm not quite sure why that is. Do a paint with me podcast. That's mean. That sounds like fun. Is that kind of what we're doing now though, Abby? Are we doing a paint with me podcast at the moment? Cheers, love. I appreciate that. And when he said, you should totally do a podcast. Your voice could put me to sleep. I love that. That's so funny. That's like that is what podcasts are for though, to be fair. They knock you out. They're excellent for that. Or they make the driving journey go faster. Because music, you can only listen to so many songs a lot of the time until you start to get a little bit like, okay, my mind's starting to wander now. But with podcasts, just keep on enjoying it. Whew, did you hear that? That was my tummy grumbling. Loud grumbles. I love crime and mystery podcasts. Well, guys, how would you feel about doing a podcast on TikTok? Because I was talking with I Am Hope about it. A guy named Mana, great guy. And he was saying that they'd be keen to see what we can do. And actually, just like we've been talking here about things like mental health. And I say mental health, it's such a buzzword, guys. What I mean is the real authentic version of you. And that's also a buzzword. It's all buzzwords, one after another. But It's like mental health, we feel like, oh, that's not for me because I don't have mental health problems. Perfect. But you do have feelings and you do have an identity. So, although we used a buzzword which turned you off, there's actually a lot of relevant stuff here to talk about for you. And don't run from that. You need to read books. Yeah, I do. I got this amazing book over here. This is the Painter's Handbook. And maybe we'll just read some of this off, but everything's in here. This is what it says on the cover. Supports, sizes and grounds, binders, solvents and thinners, varnishes and more, pigments, paint making procedures, oil paints, water thin paints, temperas, encaustic, that's when you use like wax, pastel, synthetic binders, mural paints and techniques, presentation methods, picture protection, conservation, plus the most up-to-date information on hazardous materials and safety precautions in the art studio. This is the book. If you have this book, you don't need to read the entire thing. It's a handbook. You just skip to the places with the information that you need. And if you skip to those parts and keep yourself informed about your own personal medium and your craft and safety, oh my God. A lot of artists are like, I don't need to worry about safety right now. I need to worry about selling art. You're like, no, absolutely not. If you don't worry about safety at the start and maintain your frontal lobe, you won't be able to make art to sell, or there won't be an artist at all within a few years. Please, 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 please look after yourself, guys. Use safe materials. So many artists out there going, oh, I use oil paints and I crack a window. You're like, cool, okay, the window's been cracked. Hey, everyone, don't worry. The fumes are going out that window in the far left-hand corner. Bevan's totally safe. It's a good book, Jules. Very, very handy when we talk about the archival elements of art. We have this show in the UK on BBC called Fake or Fortune about paintings. It's so good. I think I've heard of that one. Where they actually get the paintings and it's all about whether it's real or not, and there's a whole process to it. And it's pretty fun. That's pretty fun. The art world's changing though, guys. We had lots of things like, historically we talked about things like what, with certificates of authenticity. That's still a thing, but you can see how in a world where everything's becoming possible, a piece of paper is fast becoming less of a way to show something's truly archival, right? Not archival, truly real. With my certificates of authenticity, I don't have one nearby right now, but they've I cold foil them, so they have that sort of metallic glow around the edges, and then you have a very old copy of that book. Yes, yes. Everyone typically has this book hiding out in a cubby somewhere, and because the techniques in it haven't changed for 10,000, not 10,000 years, hundreds and hundreds of years, the key bits of advice are still primo. That's hilarious that you own the book too. You do. You got artist in your name, of course you do. God, what was I saying though? Something. Trail of thought gone again. Something about something. Some have been found to be genuine money, but some turn out to be fakes. It's so interesting. Yeah. I feel like doing the whole process live here too. This kind of works as a certificate of authenticity. And one thing I do as well, if you're wondering about certificates, get the artist to hand write it or to sign it with hand. Because with prints it's not so relevant, but for the originals, it's fun to make sure you've actually got that irreplicable element to it. And another thing I do, I get wax. And I pour wax in the center of the certificate of authenticity, and I've got a stamp. So like a king seal, these are quite hard to replicate. We can print anything today. We can get any special number, we can get any special code, you know, we can copy signatures. But what you can do with a certificate of authenticity is put more hoops out to make it more inconvenient to replicate. So cold foiling on special kinds of paper, that's tough to replicate. And then you get a wax seal, another step, and then you have a signature and the artist's writing all over it, that's even harder. And then you have certain print techniques, harder again. So yeah, and little things like putting ink on your fingerprint and putting that down, again, and just another thing that makes it really, really hard to replicate. And that's what makes certificates of authenticity fun. It's kind of like money in that everyone's trying to replicate, you know, people try to launder money and things as fast as people try and figure out ways to make the money uncopyable. It's come a long way. Americans are still on paper, but like our one's all, New Zealand cash is plastic. It can go through the washing machine. It's, you know, there's lots of elements like this to making sure something's the real deal. And do you sign yours on the front or the back too? I sign the work only because that's standard practice, guys, but it's not what I like to do. I don't like signing originals, but people are like, oh, make sure your signature's on the front. I'm like, can I sign the back, please? Because I do not like a big signature staring at you. It's like putting a signature on the front for me is kind of how it feels when you listen to a song. Like a song starts and it's like DJ Khaled, and then it goes into the song and it's like, it's not too bad when he does it, but like imagine if some of Johnny Cash's songs start with, hello, I'm Johnny Cash. But if every artist started with, imagine if all of Ed Sheeran's songs started with, I'm Ed Sheeran, enjoy my song. That's like signing your work. And there's this whole work here, which is unique and it's designed to be loved by someone. And I'm like, oh, by the way, while you're enjoying that beauty, Seb. It's like, it can go around the back. It doesn't need to be staring you in the face. But that's just me, guys. I love to look at a work like a window to human expression, to the soul, a form of embellished reality, and like I just really like it, and I feel like the signature can sometimes break down that barrier or that connection that we want to have with the artwork. It brings reality into it. It's like saying, hey, don't lose yourself too much in this. There's a human's signed it. But I understand that that's the industry standard, and so I do copy it. So basically, guys, I'm whinging about something I don't plan to change. But I'm hoping that as a society, we can move away, now that we get all these fun new methods, we can move away from needing to sign things. Please, 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 please. And like, I can have a video online where you can actually see the work up close, whatever, like this, and that can be the signature that Seb made it. Seb doesn't need to put a big gooey black signature on the front, please. With prints, it's kind of fun. With print signatures are kind of fun, but for the original, please just have a raw original. That's just me though. And cheers, Shelley. Love the name, by the way. Imagine paying big money for a Picasso and it turns out to be fake. I own a few, I shouldn't say fake, but Picasso prints, and they bring me a lot of joy. I don't need to own a real Picasso. I do want to see it at a museum, but I don't need to own a Picasso, if that makes sense. I don't think there's any amount of money I would have to then be like, I need the real thing. You know, I leave those works to be in galleries where everyone can enjoy them. But prints of those works are amazing. You know, I'd love to have a few prints of Picasso's. I do prints of Van Gogh's. His work's too impasto, too thick. You sort of get to see it in the flesh. There's that show that goes around, the one that has the giant 360 rooms, all the colour. That's a fantastic version of one that has the giant 360 rooms, all the colour. That's a fantastic version of white on the canvas in these ones. Be the base, so every stroke is kind of like painting. Each stroke's like a Chinese or Japanese painting where there can't be any mistakes. They just stay. And if there is, we can add and cover up certain things like an eraser. Anyway, guys, if you've been here since the start, you're an absolute champion. Thanks for joining me. Too many birthdays though, guys. I was probably hanging out with my birthday. May have had a beer. Definitely. Let me see if I can get this. Yeah. Icky yet fun though, right? Yourselves, thank you so much for joining me today. 19.9 thousand likes. Guys, I'm so sorry to... Oh, 20! We got to 20 right at the end. You pack of champions, guys. All the best. See you later.